Yes, so Hairless here. Today we're back with a Patreon request. Thank you to Anna for this one. We have Lie by Jimin of BTS. BTS, for anyone who doesn't know, is a K-pop band. I'm not really familiar with them. I have done reactions to 2 songs by one of their members, Jungkook, also known as JK. Those songs were Standing Next to You and 3D. We're going to be watching a live performance today. This is the one that was specifically requested. Being a live performance, there is going to be dancing. I understand that BTS are good dancers as well, so they can probably put on a show visually too. In the reactions I just mentioned that I've done to one of the members, JK, I found heavy similarities to Justin Timberlake, or I was reminded of Justin Timberlake. Jimin is a different member though. I don't know what he'll be like. I don't know if he'll be similar to JK. The lyrics of this song on screen now, feel free to pause. They're fairly self-explanatory. Interestingly though, before translating them, some of the lines are in English. Also, after translation, the original part is still in English. So I guess these parts will be sung in English. Right, without further ado, let's get straight into it.
달콤한 미소 내게 속삭이던 내 귓가에 말해 Don't be like a prey Smooth like a snake 벗어나고 싶은데 yeah. 내게서 떠나줘 뭐라도 나를 구해줘 도망쳐봐도 거짓 속에 빠져있어 숨겨냈던 날 찾아줘 이 거짓 속에 헤어날 수 없어 내 웃음을 들려줘 이쪽에서 날 꺼내줘 헤어날 수 없어 널 나를
구해줘. Okay. I decided not to pause after the intro and the bit after, but yeah, we have stuff to talk about here. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. Alright, well, there's a lot going on musically and the visual stimuli as well of the dancing and stuff. As we go through, I'm just going to re-listen to bits as well, just to make sure I get everything. Right, so the first thing, when I was going to pause, was here. That guitar. I recognise it. I've heard it before. Let me quickly find out what it is and then I'll insert a clip. So it's La Vida Breve by Manuel de Falla. So the music here, this song Lie, at its core, has this kind of classical Spanish style guitar. It immediately makes this song interesting, at least to me. It's not something we often hear and it's a style of music I love. On the note of combining contemporary, new with old, the introduction. What an introduction. It's a little difficult to hear because of the crowd screaming. But I think I can still hear the harmony in there, just about. Now, I don't recognise this, so I'm not sure what the sample is, if it's sampled. You know what? I'm going to Shazam it. I had to Shazam the studio version because it wasn't picking it up. But it's just coming up as Lie. So I'm guessing it's original music written for this song. Again, I really like that. It's got obvious elements of classical music as it's referred to today, but spanning centuries. What I mean by that, to go a bit more granular, it has elements of Baroque music, classical music, which came after Baroque and is its own genre, and romantic music, which came after classical. It reminds me a lot of Beethoven, and Beethoven is considered to be the bridge between classical and romantic. The opening chords that we hear, the first 4 chords, they're juicy. G sharp diminished 7, F sharp minor, F diminished 7, F sharp minor. F sharp minor is the overall key, so it's interesting to arrive there on the 2nd chord, then move away and then come back for the 4th chord. After these 4 chords we hear the bass line leading a descent downwards in the scale of F sharp minor. And all the other parts that make up the rest of the chord, they're moving in between the bass part moving. It creates this lag effect, immediately a feeling of tension. As soon as we arrive at a chord, then it's already moving to the next one because the bass is one step ahead. It's like they're playing a game of catch up almost. Alright, so far I'm liking it. We have this kind of neo-classical feel. I think it's quite cool and a kind of deep set, musically cultural foundation to the music. And then we get this drop. That just adds to the tension or the suspense that we might be feeling. It's kind of like your heart dropping. That feeling when you hear some really bad news or, I don't know, when you fall on a roller coaster. So we get that drop and then the beat enters along with the lyrics. Cool visuals really, the choreography, the red lighting, the fake candles, Jimin in this sparkly jacket and his bleached blonde hair. There's just contrast everywhere. And what about the melody that we hear? Extremely simple. 5-1. And then we get this note repeated. As I always say, repeated notes inherently are catchy. They're easy to remember. You don't need to think about what note's coming next in the melody. You hear it once and then you know it. All the meanwhile, we're hearing that guitar part from La Vida Breve. We're hearing it underneath. It's alternating between those two chords. So it is fairly static harmonically, but just enough to have some movement. Also, I just want to point out how sporadic the beats seem as well. With everything we've heard so far, it seems like all the musical decisions are to create a unconscious feeling of offness, suspense, tension. I think it's alluding to guilt, how someone might feel when they're guilty of something. The lyrics, they're talking about snakes, the animal of deceit. Caught in a lie. The song does a good job of ensuring nothing is comforting, musically speaking, like some Renaissance choral music might be, for example. And there are some other cool things thrown in here and there. When I was talking about the beat, we got this bit where everything comes off for a temporary moment of silence. I think that keeps us tense. Harmony in thirds on the melody, just then straight after. And then just after that, we get this lyricless vocalization. What is it? I don't know, but it works, it's cool. And then later we hear that again, but this time harmonized, again in thirds. And again, the idea of repetition. Much quicker now, but still noticeable and I think catchy. Building up to the chorus, it's a nice build up. The piano bass part is more prominent here. We get 4 rising notes from F sharp, the key. Sound familiar? Well, it's the exact opposite to the falling 4 notes we heard in the bass part in the intro. Then we get to the chorus, and this is probably the standout feature of the main song, so not talking about the introductory part. The obvious thing about it is the change to the major. This here is the circle of fifths. We don't need to worry too much about what it is. The outside ring are major keys, the inside ring are minor keys. Usually when we move from major to minor, or vice versa, like this, these are called the relatives of each other. So we're in F sharp minor, so going to the major you'd expect it to go to A major, but instead we go to F sharp major, over here. It's the same letter name, so it's called the parallel major. That's quite a peculiar thing to do. We have the bass part jumping between octaves but the same note. So there's no harmonic change, but it gives a little bit of this feeling of, well, change to enhance that change from minor to major. Also, now there's a change in language. This is one of the lines that's sung in English. Caught in a lie, probably to drive home the idea of dualism, the truth, the good version of oneself, versus the lie, the tainted version of oneself. And just before we continue, one last thing. Towards the end of the second chorus, the bass part is now acting different to before. It's moving in a scale fashion, so stepwise up and down. But what we hear in the bass, that note here, is clashing with what we hear in the melody. And if we bring it down, and in the chord of D, These are the notes that determine if it's minor or major. So it's really driving home the idea of a few things that we've seen here. Major versus minor, dualism, tension. Whew. Okay, a lot to say there. Let's carry on.
떠나줘 뭐라도 나를 구해줘 계속 도망쳐봐도 거짓 속에 빠져있어.
Alright, we'll continue in a moment with this second chorus. There are just a few things before I forget, especially around choreography. So we have this bit here. He's saying, I've lost my way, putting the blindfold on. Crowd goes wild. Those screams. Shortly after that, we get another case of everything in the music coming off completely. And then just a beat to bring us back in. It's just these little things that kind of break up the continuous flow or motion of the music, and it keeps us engaged. Obviously, it depends on the type of the song and the musical context, but for a song like this, I think it works well. Then the music sections are pretty much repeats, so not much to go over there. The choreography though, I'm kind of just, it's computing in my head how sometimes there are loads of them on the stage. Look how many there are here. What is that, 15 to 20 of them? But then other times, 5. Like, where are they? See, that's quite cool there, seeing them all run onto the stage. I like the in the round setup as well of the crowd. Having the performers in the middle must make the choreography aspect much more interesting. You have to consider all 360 degrees with every moment, compared to if you're just performing on a stage to people sitting facing you. Alright, let's carry on from where we got to the end. Oh, quite a sudden ending there. Yeah, wow. Through that last bit, I was just suddenly blown away by the audience. They all have these lights and they're changing. Mad. Yeah, I mean, wow, that's a cool song. There's a lot going on in there. Musically, lyrically, choreographically. Yeah, very cool. That's a very cool song, I think. Some final bits to say. We get the repeated notes again. But this time they're in harmony in fifths. This is one of the more archaic sounding intervals compared to a third, for example, pointing towards the old versus new that we've seen so much of in this song. Jimin, he has a naturally high voice, naturally high chest voice. I imagine he's utilised in BTS for this probably, but I don't know any of the other members other than JK, whom I've heard a few times with his solo stuff. Hearing the chorus a couple more times, the guitar part underneath, it really started to stand out to me. We have this arpeggiated figure. But before that, we had this weird... which clashes with the harmony, creates dissonance. But then for the chorus, we hear... But. We're thinking in terms of 6/8. So we can think of like 1 2 3 1 2 3, or 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. This is interesting because the meter, the time signature at its core, is thinking in terms of threes. Most popular songs we can think of in terms of twos or fours. 1 2 1 2, or 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. The meter they're using here, 6/8, that's more commonly associated with folk music or like pastoral settings. It's also worth noting that the intro we get, this is in a different meter. This is thinking in terms of 4, completely different to the 3 of the rest of the song. Then we get a nice bridge here. Electric guitar becoming prominent compared to the acoustic guitar we were hearing earlier, and we have some interesting chord progressions. And then we kind of end with him showing off his chest voice. He goes up to the C sharp. That's one note higher than the kind of operatic wow tenor moment. It does sound very heavily processed here though. And that leads into this bit, which is a nice way to end. A texturally reduced chorus, everything is now kind of pure, he's floating. Things are white, they're in the spotlight. And it's chordal sounding, like a softer sound. And the melody as well, instead of harmony in fifths like we saw before, now it's in unison. Like a coming together, before finishing the main chorus. The strings are prominent, and then we end with a final homage to La Vida Breve. Sudden ending. Yeah, there was a lot going on there, but very cool, I think, very cool overall. Right, well, let's leave that one there. Thank you again for this recommendation, and as always, thank you to everyone for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe, and a comment. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the YouTube membership or Patreon linked down below, and I will see you next time.